"You don't deserve leftovers, sir," the waitress said to the homeless man who stood in the center of an expensive Lagos restaurant, holding a small, wrinkled 200 naira note in his shaking hand. A kind-eyed waitress named Amanda had just placed a hot pack of jollof rice with chicken and a bottle of water in front of him. "Sir," she said softly, "this is not leftover food. You deserve real food." The man's eyes widened. For a second, he could not breathe. What she did left him frozen with shock. Phones were raised. People stared. The restaurant owner, Madame Amaka, frowned from behind the counter. Then the man reached for his beard. It peeled away. Gasps rippled through the room. Amanda's lips parted as the whole place held its breath. The fake hair dropped to the shiny floor. How did we get here? It started that morning in a quiet, bright room high above Victoria Island. The city of Lagos hummed below. Jerry Andrew, one of the most powerful CEOs in Nigeria, stood in front of a mirror. He was rich, famous, and respected. But today he did not want respect. He wanted truth. Today he whispered, "I will see kindness with my own eyes." He opened a black case on his table. Inside were the costumes, a tattered brown coat, a messy tangled beard, and a wild wig of rough hair. He put them on. He covered his clean-shaven face, shadowed his neat haircut, and smeared ash on his skin to look tired and dusty. When he looked back at the mirror, Jerry Andrew was gone. In his place stood a man who looked like he had slept under a bridge. Jerry nodded to himself. No driver, no bodyguards, no special seat, just me. He stepped into the elevator alone. The restaurant he chose was one that knew him well. On normal days, the moment he walked in, the staff would clap. A special chair near the window was always kept for him. The chef would rush out with a smile. People would whisper, "That's Jerry Andrew," but not today. As the disguised homeless man pushed the glass door, the music and chatter continued. He smelled pepper soup and grilled fish. The air was cool, the light bouncing off spotless tiles. He took one step in, then another. A young couple moved their seats away. A man in a fine suit said, "Please don't come near me," and lifted his trouser hem like the homeless man was dirty water. Two girls at the back giggled and started recording with their phones. "See his hair? He will stain this place," one of them whispered. Behind the counter, Madame Amaka looked up. She wore a gold scarf and a sharp smile that never reached her eyes. "You, shift to the corner," she ordered, pointing at a dark wall near the door. "Do not disturb my customers." Jerry lowered his head and moved to the corner. His chest hurt, not from their words, but from what those words revealed. He had not come to punish anyone. He had come to learn. A waiter passed by, wrinkling his nose. Another hissed like air escaping a tire. Jerry swallowed hard. He knew his lines. He had practiced them because today had a purpose. He stepped forward, his voice soft. "Please, I have not eaten in 2 days." His hands shook as he held up the small crumpled note. "Take this 20 naira and please give me leftovers, just leftovers so I can eat. I am hungry." The room burst into laughter. "20 naira?" someone shouted. "That cannot even buy water." "Leftovers," another said, holding his stomach from laughing. "He wants people's remnants." Even Madame Amaka laughed. "We do not sell leftovers here," she announced loudly so everyone could hear. "Go outside and check the dustbin if that's what you want." More laughter, more phones, more eyes that saw a problem, not a person. All eyes except one, Amanda. She stood a few steps away, wearing a neat black and white uniform and a white cap. She did not laugh. Her eyes were gentle and steady, like quiet rain after a hot day. She looked at the 20 naira in his hand, then at his face. "Sir," she said softly, "please wait here. She turned to the counter. "Madam, I need jollof rice and chicken. Takeaway and a bottle of water." A waiter near her snorted. "For who?" "For him," Amanda said, pointing at Jerry. "Please hurry." Madame Amaka's brows shot up. "Amanda, are you blind? He has only 20 naira. That food is premium. The chicken is a full portion. This is not charity." "I know," Amanda said. Her voice did not shake. "Put it on my bill. You can remove it from my next salary." The room grew quieter. Someone coughed. Someone muttered. She must be new. But Amanda had worked there for months. People knew she was fast and kind. They just didn't expect this. "Are you serious?" Madame Amaka asked, hands on her hips. Amanda nodded. "Yes, Ma. Fine." The owner waved a hand at the kitchen like swatting a fly. "Collect the money later and learn sense, not charity nonsense." In minutes, Amanda returned with a warm pack of jollof rice glowing red with spice, a full piece of chicken, and a cold bottle of water, beads of condensation sparkling on its surface. The smell filled the air. Tomatoes, pepper, smoke, home in a box. She faced the homeless man. "No, sir," she said when he tried to extend the 20 naira with trembling fingers. "Keep your money. This is not leftover. This is your food. I have paid for it." Something inside Jerry froze. The noise, the lights, the cold air from the AC, all of it faded. The kindness hit him like a wave. He had expected pity, maybe disgust, maybe someone turning away. But this was courage. Her words left him still, shocked, wide-eyed. He took the food slowly, as if it might break. "Thank you," he whispered. Amanda smiled, small and honest. "Eat, sir." She turned to leave. "Please," he said, his voice stronger now. "Wait." Amanda turned back. Jerry's fingers went to the edge of his beard. He pulled. The fake hair peeled away from his jaw. The tangled wig slid off like a falling hat. He straightened. He removed the tattered coat. Underneath was a crisp navy blue suit and a clean white shirt that had been hidden all along. The room broke open with gasps. "Wait, is that Jerry Andrew?" Amanda's eyes widened in surprise. "Sir, you are Jerry, the billionaire CEO." He smiled, gentle but sure. "Yes." The door swung open, and 2 members of his security team stepped in, scanning the room ready for trouble. The laughter from earlier was gone. Silence filled its place. Even Madame Amaka's sharp smile had faded. Jerry lifted a hand. "No one is in trouble," he said calmly. "Stand down." The security men stepped back by the door. Jerry turned to face the room. "Listen, please. I did not come here for revenge. I was not raised that way." He looked at the tables, the suits, the phones. "I came to see kindness. I wanted to know if anyone would see a hungry man and help." His eyes found Amanda again. And someone did. A murmur rippled through the room. Heads dropped. A man, in a suit, stared at his shoes. 2 girls slid their phones down and hid them. Madame Amaka stepped around the counter, her hands twisting together. "Sir." "It's okay," Jerry said, his voice calm. "But please, do not look down on people. Not here. Not in your heart." He took a breath, then turned back to Amanda. "What is your name?" "Amanda, sir." "Amanda," he repeated with a nod. "You told me I did not deserve leftovers. You said I deserved food." He smiled faintly. "You were right." She swallowed, her eyes shining. "I only did what I would want someone to do for me." Jerry nodded again, as if her words had unlocked something inside him. He lifted the food box she had bought and held it up like a small trophy. Then he lowered it and spoke quietly so only she could hear. "I was not hungry," he said. "I came to find the kindest person in this room. I found you." Amanda's breath caught. "Sir, resign," Jerry said softly. The room gasped again. Madame Amaka's head snapped up. "Sir, please!" Jerry raised a hand, his eyes still on Amanda. "Resign from here today." Amanda's heart raced. I don't understand." "You will," he said. He glanced toward the door. "Car." The security team nodded and stepped out. Jerry turned back to the crowded room one last time. "Treat people well," he said, "even when no one is recording." His gaze shifted to Madame Amaka. "I forgive you, but change this place. Start here." Then he faced Amanda again, his expression softening. "Come with me." Amanda looked from Jerry to Madame Amaka, then down at the food box in her hands. Her throat felt tight. She had no parents, no uncle to call, no one to guide her. She had carried herself through school, taken this job because there was nothing else. "Will I be safe?" she asked quietly. Jerry nodded once. "With me?" "Yes." Outside, the deep purr of an expensive SUV rolled to the curb. Amanda unclipped her name tag, her fingers trembling. She placed it gently on the counter. "Madame." Amaka stared, speechless. Amanda picked up her small handbag and turned back to Jerry. The room watched silently, wide-eyed as they walked side by side to the door. Cameras lifted again, but no one dared laugh. A security man opened the back door of the sleek black SUV. Cool, clean air flowed out. Jerry stood by the door and looked at Amanda. "There's something I need to show you," he said. Amanda drew a breath and stepped inside. The door clicked shut. The SUV pulled away into the bright Lagos afternoon, swallowed by the city as the restaurant buzzed with whispers, everyone wondering what would happen next. The SUV glided smoothly through the busy streets, its tinted windows shutting out the noise of hawkers and Danfo buses. Inside, Amanda sat stiffly, her hands folded on her lap, her eyes darting between Jerry and the leather seat in front of her. She had never been in a car this expensive, not even close. Her heart raced. Just hours ago, she was a waitress serving strangers. Now she sat beside a billionaire who had entered her life disguised as a homeless man. Jerry leaned back, his navy blue suit catching the soft glow of the car's interior lights. He studied Amanda quietly for a moment, then spoke. "You are still nervous." Amanda looked down. "Sir, I don't understand. Why me? Why did you choose me?" Jerry gave a small smile. "Because you chose kindness when everyone else chose laughter. That is the difference." He paused, his voice low and thoughtful. "Do you know how rare it is to meet someone who sees value in another human being without thinking of what they will gain?" Amanda's throat tightened. She thought about the accident that had taken her parents when she was 15, the long years of selling bread on the streets to finish secondary school, the endless job hunts after university. She had been overlooked countless times because she had no powerful uncle, no connections, and now here she was, sitting beside a man who could change her story, but she was afraid to believe, afraid it was all a dream. The SUV slowed, turning into a wide avenue lined with tall palm trees and glowing street lamps. At the end stood a massive white mansion with golden gates. Amanda's mouth parted slightly. She had only ever seen such houses in magazines. The gates swung open, and the SUV rolled inside. The compound was vast, with a sparkling fountain at the center and expensive cars parked neatly to the side. The air smelled of freshly cut grass and roses. The car stopped at the entrance. A guard opened Amanda's door. She stepped out slowly, her legs trembling. The ground beneath her shoes was smooth marble, not the dusty restaurant floor she was used to. Jerry walked beside her, his hand resting lightly at her back. "Welcome to my home," he said. Amanda swallowed hard. "It's beautiful, sir." Inside, the mansion was even more breathtaking. High ceilings glittered with chandeliers. The walls were decorated with paintings from around the world. The living room had couches so soft they looked like clouds. She tried not to stare too much, but her eyes kept pulling in every detail. A woman in a maid's uniform came forward and bowed. "Welcome, sir." She glanced at Amanda with curiosity, but said nothing. "Show her to the guest wing," Jerry instructed gently. "Make sure she has everything she needs." Amanda's chest tightened again. Guest wing? She had never had a room of her own since her parents died. She followed the maid quietly down a long corridor, her footsteps echoing against the polished floor. When the door opened, Amanda gasped. The room was larger than the small flat she once shared with 3 other girls in school. The bed was wide and covered in white sheets. There was a dressing table, a reading desk, and a window that opened to the garden. Even the air smelled fresh and new. The maid placed her small handbag on the table. "Dinner will be served in an hour," she said kindly, before leaving. Amanda sat on the edge of the bed, her hands gripping the sheets. She whispered to herself, "God, is this real? Please don't let me wake up from this dream." Later that evening, Amanda was invited to Jerry's study. The room was lined with bookshelves, a soft golden lamp glowing in the corner. Jerry sat behind. A large wooden desk, his face calmer now. "Amanda," he began, "there is something you must know about me." Amanda looked at him, her eyes wide. "My wife died during childbirth 3 years ago. The baby survived only 5 months. Since then, I have lived with emptiness, even surrounded by all this wealth." His voice cracked slightly, but he cleared his throat and continued. "I decided I would never remarry, but I also decided I would use my life to search for kindness in people, because it is kindness that heals the world." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, sir." Jerry gave her a small nod. "Don't be sorry. Just understand why I did what I did today." He leaned forward, resting his hands on the desk. "I want to build something for you, Amanda. A restaurant, the best in Lagos. A reminder that kindness is never wasted." Amanda's mouth fell open. She shook her head slowly. "Sir, a restaurant? For me?" "Yes," Jerry said firmly. "For you. But first I need you to work with my team. I want your ideas. I want you to dream with me." Amanda's tears spilled. She wiped them quickly, but her voice trembled. "Sir, I don't deserve this." Jerry's gaze was steady. "Amanda, you do, and one day you will understand why." Amanda pressed her hands together, her heart pounding. She had walked into the day as a waitress. Now she was being asked to dream of the best restaurant in Lagos. For the first time in years, she believed her life might never be the same again. The next morning, Amanda woke to the sound of soft bird song outside her window. Sunlight poured into the room through tall glass panes, painting the cream walls in golden streaks. For a few seconds, she lay still, struggling to accept the truth. She was no longer in her tiny hostel bed or standing long hours in a crowded restaurant. She was in the mansion of Jerry Andrew, the billionaire who had tested kindness and found her. Her first thought was, what if all this ends today? A knock on the door pulled her back. A maid entered with a tray of breakfast, scrambled eggs, fried plantain, fresh orange juice, and steaming tea. Amanda blinked, still unused to such luxury. She whispered a thank you, her voice trembling with disbelief. Later that day, Jerry invited her to join him in the study again. The large room smelled of polished wood and leather. Amanda sat opposite him, her hands folded neatly, though her eyes revealed nerves. Jerry leaned forward. "Amanda, last night I told you I want to build the best restaurant in Lagos for you. Today I want to hear your dreams. What kind of restaurant do you imagine?" Amanda hesitated. All her life, no one had ever asked her what she wanted. She had only known survival. She lowered her gaze. "Sir, I don't know if my dreams matter." Jerry's tone was gentle but firm. "Amanda, Every dream matters. Yours especially. Speak freely. Don't think about the cost. Don't think about limits. Just tell me. Amanda took a deep breath, her mind racing back to her days as a waitress. She remembered the customers who left unsatisfied, the families who wanted a place that felt warm, not just fancy. Slowly, her words began to flow. I want a restaurant where people feel at home the moment they walk in. The air should smell of food that reminds them of family. I want bright colors, not dull walls. Tables wide enough for families to eat together. A section for children with little chairs. And the food. She paused, her voice steadying as excitement took over. The food must taste like love. Real jollof. Rice with smoky flavor. Chicken grilled to perfection. Soups that remind you of your mother's kitchen. Not overpriced, just good value. Jerry's eyes lit up as he listened. Amanda leaned forward now, her hands moving as she described the dream she didn't know she had kept locked inside. And the name, she said softly, it should be called Kindness Restaurant, because kindness brought it to life. For a moment, the study was quiet. Jerry leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. Kindness Restaurant, he repeated. Perfect. Amanda looked down, embarrassed by her passion. I'm sorry, sir. I said too much. Jerry shook his head. No, you said exactly what I needed to hear. You see, Amanda, I have architects and engineers who can build walls and design spaces, but they cannot design a soul. You just gave this restaurant a soul. Amanda's eyes glistened with tears. For years, she had been invisible. Now, her voice mattered. Days turned into weeks. Jerry introduced Amanda to engineer David and his team. At first, they looked at her with doubt. Just a young waitress standing beside a billionaire. But Jerry's words silenced them. Respect her ideas. She is the reason this project exists, he told them. From that day, Amanda worked closely with the team. She visited building sites, reviewed sketches, and tasted recipe trials with the chefs Jerry hired. She poured her heart into every detail, the colors, the chairs, even the way the waiters should greet customers. For the first time in her life, she was not just serving food, she was creating a future. But in the quiet of her nights, Amanda still battled fear. What if it fails? What if Jerry changes his mind? She often sat by her window, whispering prayers to the memory of her late mother. Mama, is this real? Is kindness truly enough to change my life? One evening, after a long meeting with the engineers, Jerry invited Amanda to join him on the balcony. The city stretched below, Lagos glowing with lights like a sea of fireflies. Do you believe in destiny? Jerry asked, leaning against the railing. Amanda hugged herself against the evening breeze. I don't know, sir. Life has been too hard for me to think destiny cared. Jerry turned, his eyes steady on hers. I lost my wife and child, Amanda. For years I believed destiny was cruel. But the day you stood in that restaurant, refusing to give me leftovers, I realized something. Maybe destiny doesn't give us what we want, but it gives us who we need. Amanda's breath caught. She looked away, her cheeks warming. Jerry continued softly. This restaurant will not just be the best in Lagos. It will be a symbol. People will walk in and remember that kindness built it. And you, Amanda, will be its heart. Her eyes stung with tears. She nodded, though words refused to come. The night air carried their silence as both of them stared at the city lights. Neither spoke, but both felt it. The invisible thread pulling their lives closer together. 5 months later, the building stood tall, painted in warm colors that invited everyone who passed by. A golden sign hung at the entrance. Kindness Restaurant. Inside, polished chairs gleamed, bright walls welcomed guests, and the aroma of jollof rice and pepper soup filled the air. It was ready. On the day of the grand opening, the place overflowed with people. Businessmen, politicians, students, families. Even Madame Amaka was there, her eyes carrying both regret and envy. And at the center of it all stood Amanda, no longer the unnoticed waitress, but the proud owner of Lagos's newest gem. Yet, as she held the microphone to address the crowd, her hands shook. What if my voice fails? What if this moment slips away? Like a dream? Her eyes searched the crowd until they found Jerry standing tall at the back. His gaze locked on hers, calm but steady, silently telling her, "You are not alone." Amanda raised the microphone to her lips. The room went silent. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice soft at first. The speakers echoed and the crowd leaned in. She paused, her mind racing. She thought of her parents, of the bread trays she once carried as a teenager, of the long nights working as a waitress. The weight of those struggles pressed against her chest like a stone. Then her eyes found Jerry again. His look was strong, grounding her. And in that moment, Amanda remembered why she was here. Not for fame, not for applause, but because kindness had brought her here. Her voice grew stronger. "I was once just a waitress. I had nothing but my hands and my hope. I lost my parents in an accident when I was 15, and I learned very early that life is not fair. But my mother always told me something I never forgot. She said, 'Amanda, kindness always pays back, even if the person you help cannot repay you,'" the crowd murmured. Some nodded. Amanda lifted her head higher. One day, a man walked into the restaurant where I worked, looking like he had nothing. People laughed at him, insulted him, pushed him away. But something in me said he didn't deserve leftovers. He deserved a meal like every other human being. I used my small salary to give him jollof rice and chicken. Her voice caught, her eyes shining. That man was no ordinary man. He was Jerry Andrew, the billionaire CEO, and he chose to change my life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amanda's hand trembled around the microphone, but her voice did not break. Today, this restaurant exists not because I was smart or rich or powerful. It exists because kindness met opportunity, and this place will always carry that name. Kindness Restaurant, to remind us that no matter how small an act of love is, it can open a door to something greater than we ever imagined. The room erupted in thunderous applause. Some people wiped tears. Phones shot into the air, recording every moment. But not everyone clapped. Near the back stood Madame Amaka, the owner of Amanda's former workplace. She wore a sharp lace gown, her head tied high, but her face was tight. She remembered clearly how she had laughed at Jerry that day, how she had mocked him and told him to shift aside. And now, the same girl she once ordered around stood on stage as the owner of the most talked-about restaurant in Lagos. Jealousy burned inside her, but she forced a smile when Jerry's eyes met hers. He gave a polite nod, nothing more. After Amanda's speech, guests flooded the restaurant. The smell of spicy jollof rice filled the air as waiters in clean uniforms moved quickly, serving families, executives, and politicians. Amanda had dreamed of this moment, and now it was real. Children laughed in the play area Amanda had insisted on designing. Jerry walked slowly through the restaurant, shaking hands with people, but his attention kept drifting back to Amanda. She moved from table to table, thanking guests, her humility shining even brighter than her dress. At one point, Jerry stopped by her side. "You did well," he said quietly. Amanda smiled nervously. "I was afraid my voice would shake." Jerry chuckled. "It did. But sometimes truth is stronger than fear." She looked at him, and for a moment their eyes held longer than either expected. A warmth spread between them. But before Amanda could speak, a voice cut through. "Excuse me, Sir Jerry." It was Madame Maka. She bowed slightly, her voice dripping with forced sweetness. "I only came to say congratulations. Truly, you have done a wonderful thing for this young lady." Her eyes flickered to Amanda with something unkind. Amanda lowered her gaze. Jerry smiled faintly, but his words were sharp. "Madame Maca, I hope you remember what I told you that day. Never look down on anyone. It costs nothing to show respect." The older woman froze, her cheeks burning. "Yes, sir," she said quickly before retreating. Amanda exhaled softly. "I don't know how to face her." Jerry shook his head. "You don't need to. Let your success answer her." The evening wore on. Guests left with full stomachs and brighter hearts, talking about how Kindness Restaurant was unlike any other in Lagos. When the last plate was cleared and the lights dimmed, Amanda found herself standing at the doorway, staring at the glowing sign above. Her chest swelled with gratitude. She whispered softly, "Mama, I hope you see me now." Jerry stepped beside her, his voice calm. "Do you know what happens next, Amanda?" She turned, puzzled. "Next?" Jerry's eyes softened. But there was something deeper in them. Something that made Amanda's heart skip. "Yes," he said, "because this story, it's only beginning." Before Amanda could ask what he meant, Jerry's phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. He pulled it out, his face shifting as he read the message. Amanda watched, a knot forming in her stomach. "Sir," she whispered. "What is it?" Jerry's jaw tightened. Something unexpected. The night that had begun with celebration was about to take a sharp turn. The phone buzzed again in Jerry's hand. His face grew serious as he read the message, his jaw locking tight. Amanda stood beside him at the glowing sign of Kindness Restaurant, her heart suddenly uneasy. "What is it, sir?" she asked again softly. Jerry slid the phone back into his pocket, his expression unreadable. "Business matter, but nothing I cannot handle." Amanda nodded, though worry flickered in her eyes. She didn't press further. She had learned that sometimes silence was its own kind of respect. Yet in her chest, a small voice whispered that the man beside her carried burdens far heavier than wealth could fix. In the weeks after the opening, life settled into a rhythm Amanda had never known. Each morning, she walked into Kindness Restaurant, not as a waitress, but as its owner. The staff greeted her with respect. Customers filled the tables daily, some coming not only for the food, but for the story. The waitress whose kindness built a restaurant with a billionaire's help. Amanda poured her soul into the business. She tasted the food herself, spoke to customers, and ensured that every detail carried warmth. And each evening, when the last chair was pushed in and the lights dimmed, Jerry would often appear at the door. "Shall we?" he would say with a small smile. And Amanda would climb into the black SUV beside him. They rode back to the mansion together, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing laughter about small things. Slowly, the walls Amanda had built around her heart began to soften. Jerry, too, changed. His grief, once heavy as stone, began to lift in Amanda's presence. She reminded him of hope, of second chances, of life after loss. One evening, months after the opening, Jerry invited Amanda to the balcony of his mansion. The Lagos skyline stretched before them, glittering with city lights. Amanda stood quietly, her hands resting on the railing, the evening breeze lifting her hair. Jerry watched her for a long moment before speaking. "Amanda, do you know why I come to the restaurant so often?" She smiled faintly. "Because you like jollof rice and chicken?" He chuckled softly. "That too. But the real reason is you." Amanda turned, startled. Jerry's voice was low, steady. "From the day you looked at me and said, 'I didn't deserve leftovers,' I knew you were different. You didn't just feed a man, you saw a soul. And since then, you've given me something no money could buy. Peace." Amanda's breath caught. She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. "Sir," Jerry stepped closer. "I know I am older than you. I know I carry scars. But Amanda, I cannot deny it anymore. You are the best thing that has happened to me since I lost my wife and child. And if destiny truly exists, I believe it brought me to you." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. For years, she had believed she was invisible, unworthy of notice. Now the most powerful man in Lagos was telling her she was his light. "Jerry," she whispered, "I don't know if I deserve this." Jerry reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "You do. You always have." In that moment, Amanda felt her heart unlock. For the first time since her parents' death, she allowed herself to believe she could be loved without condition. 3 years passed. Kindness Restaurant had become the pride of Lagos, a landmark where politicians, celebrities, and ordinary families dined side by side. Amanda had grown into her role as owner, respected by her staff and admired by her customers. But in Jerry's eyes, she was far more than that. One quiet evening, Jerry led Amanda once again to the mansion's balcony, the same spot where he had first confessed his heart. The city glowed beneath them, and the air carried the scent of flowers from the garden. Jerry went down on one knee. Amanda gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Amanda," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To me, you are the best thing that has ever happened. I believe what happened at that restaurant years ago wasn't a coincidence. It was divinely arranged. Will you marry me and let us spend the rest of our lives together?" Tears streamed down Amanda's face. "Yes," she cried. "Yes, Jerry, I will marry you. You changed my life. You showed me kindness I never thought I deserved. Thank you. Thank you for everything." Jerry slipped a diamond ring onto her finger. The city lights seemed to bow to the glow in Amanda's eyes. 2 months later, Lagos witnessed one of the most beautiful weddings in its history. The hall was decorated with white roses and golden drapes. Amanda wore a flowing white gown that shimmered under the lights, her smile brighter than the chandeliers above. Jerry stood beside her in an elegant suit, his eyes never leaving hers. Guests filled the hall, business leaders, politicians, and even ordinary people who had followed Amanda's journey. And among them, sitting quietly at the back, was Madame Amaka. She watched with a mixture of regret and awe as the girl she once dismissed now became the bride of a billionaire. When it was Amanda's turn to speak, the hall fell silent. She held the microphone, her hands steady, her eyes shining. "Many of you know me as the owner of Kindness Restaurant. But before that, I was just a girl with no parents, no helper, and no job. I sold bread to survive. I worked as a waitress to live, and I often thought life had forgotten me. But one small act of kindness changed everything. I gave a meal to a man who I thought was homeless. That man was Jerry. And today, I stand here as his wife." The hall erupted into applause. Some wept openly, touched by her story. Jerry took Amanda's hand, his eyes glistening with pride. 9 months later, the sound of a baby's cry filled a private hospital suite in Lagos. Amanda, exhausted but glowing, held a tiny bundle in her arms. Jerry stood beside her, his face soft with joy, his eyes glistening as he looked down at the little girl. "She's beautiful," Amanda whispered. Jerry bent down and kissed Amanda's forehead. "Just like her mother." Amanda smiled through her tears. "Her name will be Juliana after my late mother." Jerry nodded. "Juliana Andrew. Perfect." The nurse entered quietly, adjusting the blanket around the baby. "Congratulations, Sir Ma. You have a healthy baby girl." Amanda cradled her daughter closer, her heart overflowing. From orphan to waitress to wife and mother, her journey had been nothing short of miraculous. Jerry placed his arm around her shoulders, his voice low but certain. "Amanda, do you see now? Destiny didn't forget you. It only waited for the right time to reveal itself. Amanda leaned against him, tears of joy running down her cheeks. And it all started with kindness. Jerry kissed the top of her head, his heart finally at peace. In that room, surrounded by love, Amanda knew her mother's. Words had been true all along. Kindness always pays back.